Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Wilhelm Scream, and welcome back to another day in Destiny 2 for some more Destiny 2 news and Lightfall intel. And this week's Grandmaster Nightfall is the Hypernet Current Strike. It's the very first time the strike has been available as a GM, and if you can complete it at the Grandmaster difficulty, you will earn yourself the Adept version of the Wendigo Heavy Grenade Launcher, which can roll with Explosive Light and Auto-Loading Holster, which used to be super meta last season. I'm not sure if it plays into the meta quite as well this season, but still a really good role to chase all around. It's also double Vanguard rep this week, so it's a good time to farm the Vanguard. And this strike, though it is long, actually has a lot of cheeses in it, mostly weapons dependent, but a few area dependent and a few mechanics dependent. So we're going to cover all of them in this video, and if you enjoy this content, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on the bell, the post notifications, so you never miss out on any future Destiny 2 Lightfall content like this. You can also follow me on Instagram or Twitter. They'll be linked in the description box down below. Remember, any of those things also enter you into any future giveaways on this YouTube channel, and I do one every 1,000 subscribers. We're getting so close to 70,000, you never want to miss out. And of course, if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll have a secret hashtag you can leave in the comments section to be entered into that giveaway a second time for this video. And remember, the secret hashtags, I do them on all videos. So if you haven't done this on a previous piece of content on this channel, you can always go back, check out another video, and of course, do it again. So the first thing I want to cover is the builds. There are 3 builds that I would really suggest bringing to this particular strike. More weapon builds than armor builds, though class can be a variable. But overall, Warlocks are going to kind of be the thing to go with if you have never played a GM before and you just kind of want an easy mode. Warlocks with Well of Radiance, you can't go wrong. Fusion Grenades are still really, really good. Also, Tangle builds. I was using the Tangle build on my Warlock. That seemed to do really well as well, but only when accompanied with another Well of Radiance Warlock. However, weapons are, I think, going to be the big factor in this particular strike, as there are certain things that just behave incredibly wonky, and a lot of it is strike dependent. Some of it is not. The first thing I want to cover, of course, is the Osteo Strega. Can't go wrong with an infinite dot, and it really came in handy many times during the strike, especially since I was running Strand, which was essentially spreading all my Strand effects to all the enemies just by engaging the infinite dot. But if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, essentially if you have a heavy weapon or a secondary weapon, a special weapon, or really any other weapon that has Vorpal on it, as well as Osteo equipped, as soon as you trigger the poisoning effect from Osteo, and then swap to that weapon that has Vorpal, it essentially spreads the poisoning effect and continually rebuffs it. So if you trigger the poisoning effect on one enemy and then switch to a weapon with Vorpal, the dot will continue to rebuff every single time, and wherever that enemy roams, it will spread that poisoning to all the other enemies in the vicinity. And this also works with any sort of Tangle build. So any effects like I was getting from my Swarmer boots was also being spread. Now, the next thing I just wanted to briefly discuss are the relics. Now, these spawn from the Praetorians at various stages of the strike and are primarily used to take out the blights. However, if you can pull these relics forward into areas of the strike where you wouldn't normally have them available, they could be a big help with things like boss damage on the final boss as well as the Tormentor. They can also help a lot with things like the Sparrow section, where if you take out the very first blight in the whole chain, it will actually remove all the blights, so you can go through the entire Sparrow section without worrying about any blights knocking you off. If you have something like Divinity, for the Tormentor, you can use these as full precision damage, meaning once you apply Divinity to the Tormentor, all the damage you will do with the relic will, of course, count as precision damage as it would normally, but it's much easier this way, and you can melt the Tormentor with ease because these relics do super damage to the Tormentor as well as the final boss. So always try to keep a few with you if you can. Remember that if you put them down, they will disappear after about 5 seconds, let's say, so you can juggle them and continually bring them with you, but just make sure that you have somebody maybe designated on your fire team specifically to doing that, or if you're doing this solo, keep it in your own head that you never want to leave them alone for too long. Certain areas will spawn multiple relics, but only one might be able to be brought with you into the next area. So if you're going through a load zone and one just disappears from your hands, don't worry. It's because you had 3 or at least more than 2, and one will always be able to be brought with you. The others will disappear. Now, the next thing I wanted to discuss is the Fighting Lion. This weapon is very broken at the moment. Can't see it getting fixed before this week, but essentially this particular weapon, for some reason, the way it's coded, it's doing like 90k per shot to all red bar enemies. And for some reason, because of the way the boss is coded in this particular strike, it does a lot of damage to the boss, especially if you have something like Divinity applied to it. But in any case, this is probably a go-to for most players who are running Void at the moment, just because of that ridiculous damage glitch. It's incredible for ad clear. And if you have volatile rounds, if you're on a Hunter rocking a Gerfalcon's build, you can't beat it because you're going to get invisibility as well as volatile as well as uber damage. So you're going to just be able to clear a whole room with one shot. Wasn't my go-to on the Warlock, though I did try a run with it, and it was definitely paying dividends, but we always had at least one member of our fire team using it. The next weapon that I would maybe think about bringing is the Divinity. Not only does it play in with the Champions meta in this strike, and keep in mind that this is unstoppable and overload, so you hardly ever get to see a strike without a barrier champion, which is the one that slows you up the most. So definitely think about farming this week, because there are so many more options that you can bring with you when it's just unstoppable and overload. And the Divinity is very good as far as the meta with that is concerned, though it might not be the highest hitting weapon currently. It's still good to have at least one player with it on occasion, especially for the boss. And if you're thinking of doing anything with the relics for that precision damage that I just discussed, the Divinity is a must-have, as once you apply it to the boss and then you hit the Divinity bubble with those relics, you're going to see that boss damage tick super quick. Any precision damage with the relics to the boss, or to the Tormentor for that matter, does a ton of damage, but if you can multiply it with the Divinity, why not? Might not be the best for the rest of the strike, but something to consider for sure. Another thing that I would maybe consider bringing with you, though I don't have a clip of it here, is the Wardcliff Coil. Now, this gets into more of a glitch specifically with this strike and the boss. Essentially, this boss is not coded as an actual boss. It's coded as, I believe, a yellow bar enemy. Now, that can change a lot of the ways that weapons interact with it. As I said, the Fighting Lion has a strange interaction. It doesn't necessarily hit the boss like it would even a champion. It kind of hits it more like it would a red bar enemy. That's the same with other weapons and some heavies like Wardcliff Coil or Eyes of Tomorrow, which can land multiple shots on an enemy at once, actually have damage increases because of that when it's not a boss. So, landing several shots from a Wardcliff Coil on an actual boss may do some damage, probably not a lot. But when it's not a boss, when it's actually just a normal enemy, every single shot has sort of a different multiplier. So you'll see that if you can land maybe, let's say, 3 Wardcliff Coil shots, you will be able to melt an entire phase of boss damage, maybe even more, maybe even up to half of the total boss damage for this particular boss, just because they are coded incorrectly. Another boss that was like this was the Devil's Lair boss. So on occasion, we get these glitches that allow you to change up the meta and really have some more free flow of your picks for boss damage in the strike. I actually kind of like it. So maybe bring out the Wardcliff Coil or the Eyes of Tomorrow if you haven't used it in a minute. I haven't. I hadn't used the Fighting Lion in almost 3 years. definitely a time to bring it out this week. And hopefully, if you can use all of these things to your advantage, maybe you can even attempt a solo run at this particular GM, as it's probably one of the easier ones we're going to get this season as far as just the overall mechanics. The boss is a little bit tricky because there's not really a great place to hold out for this particular boss area. Don't stand near a ledge. My fire team and I, shout out to Sinister, shout out to Simple, shout out to Herbalist for all helping me out on this particular strike. But we learned very quickly, don't stand next to the ledges. You will get booted off. There's a lot of things in this particular area that can do damage to you. The waves of blights that the boss sends out go through walls, so you can't really stand behind anything. You still have to kind of dodge around. The main thing to do is focus on the ads first, and then focus on the boss, because the boss is actually fairly easy to do damage to if you don't have to worry about a lot of ad control, which is where I was coming in with Osteo and the Fighting Lion. Hopefully you can get your hands on the Adept version of the Wendigo, or if you're chasing your Conqueror Seal for the season, or if you're trying to guild your Conqueror Seal, good luck with those things. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on the bell to post notifications. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, as I said before. And if you've watched to this point in the video, please leave a hashtag Lightfall or a hashtag Grandmaster Nightfall, or just a hashtag Nightfall in the comments section down below. Or you could leave a hashtag Hypernet Current, because that is the name of the strike. And as always, I am Wilhelm Scream. Thanks so much for watching once more, and of course, we will see you next time.